Ladies and gentlemen, shocking details continue to emerge in the alleged sexual harassment and forced religious conversion case at the Tata Consultancy Services in Nashik, with investigators uncovering a pattern that appears far more systemic than initially reported. The special investigation team has seized mobile phones from the accused, and data retrieved so far has revealed disturbing trends. Among the most serious findings is the allegation that office Wi-Fi passwords were routinely set to obscene or derogatory phrases, some reportedly intended to offend the religious sentiments of employees. Investigators also suspect that key data may have been deleted from certain devices. The matter first came to light on March 25th when a woman employee accused a colleague of sexual exploitation and religious coercion. In fact, the FIR mentions conversion. Her complaint triggered a cascade with at least 8 more employees coming forward. In a dramatic turn, Nashik police deployed undercover personnel posing as housekeeping staff for weeks, eventually catching one of the accused in the act. By April 3, 9 FIRs had been registered detailing allegations ranging from harassment and stalking to lewd comments and religious pressure. The probe has since uncovered a WhatsApp group allegedly used as a sustained tool of harassment, where offensive and abusive messages were reportedly shared daily, suggesting a deliberate pattern of psychological intimidation within the workplace. Further revelations indicate that Wi-Fi passwords were sometimes changed daily to vulgar or communally sensitive phrases, now forming a crucial part of the SIT's investigation. One complainant has in fact accused multiple individuals of persistent physical, verbal and religious harassment inside office premises. Her statement describes incidents of inappropriate physical contact, derogatory nicknames, and even an episode where her clothing was allegedly pulled. She specified this as a sari. She also alleged forced proximity, intimidation through workload pressure, and offensive remarks targeting Hindu deities and historical figures like Chhatrapati Sambhaji Maharaj. Recalling specific incidents, she said that on Gudi Padwa, one accused allegedly pulled the edge of her sari. She further alleged that another would deliberately sit next to her despite other seats being available, attempt physical contact and pass obscene remarks. She was also allegedly subjected to comments about her appearance and called derogatory names despite repeated objections. 7 individuals, Asif Ansari, Shafi Sheikh, Shahrukh Qureshi, Raza Memon, Tausif Atar, Danish Sheikh and Ashwini Chainani have been arrested so far, while HR manager Nida Khan remains untraceable. Her family claims she is not an HR manager. TCS claims she is not an HR manager. In court, public prosecutor has stated that a senior manager had repeatedly escalated complaints via email to higher authorities, which are now under forensic review. Police have seized 78 emails and chat records from a senior executive's devices, along with bank and call data, to examine whether complaints were ignored or deliberately suppressed. CCTV footage and internal communications are also being analyzed. These revelations have now put the spotlight firmly back, not just on TCS, but on workplace safety. Questions are mounting over why action was not taken earlier, was action not taken earlier, were there multiple complaints, and why it took an undercover police operation to identify the accused. Only after the arrest did Tata Sons chairman N. Chandrasekharan move to suspend the accused employees and appoint TCS COO Aarthi Subramanian to lead an internal probe supported by external experts. The company has engaged teams from Deloitte and law firm Trilegal as independent counsel to assist in the process. The case now raises larger concerns. Was there a systemic failure in implementing the prevention of sexual harassment policy, and could this trigger wider scrutiny of workplace safety standards and compliance across corporate India. I'm going to be shortly joined by Rekha Agarwal, who's an advocate with Supreme Court and a social activist. I'm also being joined by Dr. Kiranpreet Kaur, who's a human resource expert as well as a global talent acquisition strategist. I'm also being joined by Kumar Aniket, who's a corporate governance expert. Thank you very much, both of you, for joining me. Well, let me just come to you at this point, Dr. Kiranpreet Kaur. You have a long standing with HR and the best practices that it would be. What's unraveling from this TCS conversion row, as it's infamously being known as? It is being probed right now. There have been FIRs which have been filed. The latest detail that seems to be emerging out of this is about office Wi-Fi passwords being used to abuse, trigger, harass women employees. I haven't heard of this in the past. How could this be happening at a workplace?
Well, honestly, it is really weird to get to know all this. And clearly, even at the preliminary level, the kind of complaints that are coming out and the concerns being reported, brutally, failing the workplace law and ethics from an HR and legal standpoint, both. Several of these alleged actions, whether it's the unwelcome physical proximity where somebody is trying to sit next to women, forcefully pulling the sari, sexually colored remarks, repeated comments on appearance, clearly fall within the definition of sexual harassment under the Sexual Harassment Workplace Act 2013. And importantly, POSH is not limited to physical acts. Objectionable WhatsApp messages, these Wi-Fi passwords, which are humiliating or intimidating employees digitally, also constitute harassment. And here, what stand out is a pattern, and if gets proven, it's clearly a hostile work environment where any employee will feel unsafe, disrespected, or psychologically distressed. So comments related to religion, alleged attempts to hurt sentiments in a workplace context, these raises concerns around dignity, diversity, inclusion. Any form that targets employees' identity, whether religion or gender, violates the fundamental workplace ethics. So clearly, it is the responsibility of the employer. And if such behavior, even passively continues over time, it raises questions whether preventive mechanisms were even effective, because this is not just about individual. It points out a possible failure of complete system, whether a training happened, reporting mechanism were sorted, accountability structures existed, because these are zero tolerance,
Absolutely.
Behavior, and equally accountability must follow, due process, and not just because there is a big outrage at the moment because all of these things have come out. It reflects a breakdown of complete workplace culture and compliance, which must be taken seriously.
Kumar Aniket, a very simple thing that everybody seems to be asking, was this a case of complaints not being adhered to, complaints being set aside, complaints being ignored, or was this a case of just not addressing what was right in front of them? Why I'm asking this is because TCS has claimed that there has not been any official complaint which has been made under the POSH Act, which is an act to ensure women's safety at workplaces. Every workplace has very clear guidelines, particularly a workplace like TCS would have an entire audit panel with an external partner that would be looking into all of these complaints. These are set regulatory mechanisms that have been established, ordered by the court. So for a Nashik outlet of TCS to not have that is kind of impossible. So what happened between something like this happening over the years, an undercover police operation that seems to have exposed this, and then the TCS saying that there's not been any complaints under the POSH Act? How do you read between the lines?
So you are a corporate, and if such thing happens, the first strategy is that you go into a mode where you try to sweep everything under the rug. You are least bothered about what happened. You want the spotlight to go away. So of course, any corporate would have claimed a normal thing that, look, this complaint has not been made, we are not aware. But what this particular thing shows is a systemic error. Systemic, entire system was flawed. And the question which arises is not about Nasik, it's about entire TCS work environment. They have an HR department, HR policy, data and passwords are supposed to be monitored, emails, employee related data, everything is monitored. And what requires is that there has been some emails about harassment, passwords, everything. Somebody must have complained, and that complaint, even if not made directly to the POS committee, now they are trying to split hairs. It was made. They are saying that there are 78 emails. The emails were there. So somebody must have read it and it was ignored. Why so? Because this Nida Khan lady, HR or not, these mails were going to her and she was diverting. So what is happening is, this is a typical issue where somebody is sitting in the part of the system decision making and pushing all the complaint under the rug. And now at broader level also, troubleshooter, Deloitte has hired trilegal. They have not been hired to find out what happened. They have been hired to let the spotlight go away. Their priority is how to push the things efficiently under the rug. That is the corporate way of life. Corporates are not about religion. Corporates, I have seen Muslim corporates behaving in a different way. They are only about cash and profits. If you
What
check
do you mean
Islamic
by that? I don't know where you're coming from that, and what do you really mean by that, Kumar Aniket? What do you mean when you say you've seen Muslim corporates act very differently? How is that? How do corporates act differently when it comes to religion?
Then, when we are talking about religion, you are acting in a country. There are Islamic funds. So Hindu companies go to Islamic funds. They try to even.
No, I think I have a problem with what you are saying. I have a
Yes.
problem with what you are saying. Kumar Aniket, to brand a religion and corporates together and to say that they act differently from the rest of the country, I think that's unacceptable.
That's not what I am saying.
No, you said Muslim corporators. What do you mean by that?
I am saying Muslim-owned corporates. So their focus is not religion. They are focused only one thing, that the business exists to make profits. Find
How can you
cheaper
say like that?
implies
There are
where you
also
can-
Muslim NGOs. I mean, I'm sorry. You seem to have completely digressed. You seem to have completely lost me at this point. This is not about religion shaming. There is a concern here about conversion. Yes, we have to look into that. Huge complaints about how a section of people, a section of religion, Hindus, have clearly come out and said that there were attempts of forcing them to follow certain religious practices. There were derogatory messages against their deities. These are things that need to be addressed. But to say that Muslim corporators don't act like rest in the country, I am not going to be part of that conversation.
That's not I'm going. I am talking about the way HR moves, the way corporate moves. And when something happens, their priority is pushing the matter, forget how to make media and everybody forget about the matter. They are focused on delivering services at the lowest
That's a
cost
point I'm
possible.
willing to take, but I do not take the point of what you spoke about Muslim-owned corporators. I think I just need to say that very clearly. That's not something that I would subscribe to at all. But let me just get in at this point, Dr. Kiranpreet Kaur. Dr. Kiranpreet Kaur, another thing that's really emerging in this case is a very simple thing, and that is how there have been almost 70 emails that have now been accessed. And possibly these complaints would have never come out. I don't even know of any recently done undercover police operation of this extent that would bring out such shocking details of a workplace, of a professional workplace. I haven't been able to backtrack anything anywhere closely similar to this. Is it time for us to really look at how POSH Act is being implemented? It was a landmark act to ensure safety of women, to ensure safe workplaces. Eventually, it was first safety for women. It then grew into safe workplaces irrespective of gender. And that was an important moment also in this landmark verdict. And it's hard to believe, like an organization like TCS would not have that. So obviously they would have had it in place, and yet it's just flown off the wall.
Well, I think this clearly tells us that preventive measures like POSH training, awareness, and actual monitoring effectively was not happening. And it was treated merely as a checkbox exercise. Otherwise, it is hard to believe that so many instances gets unreported or no action has been taken so far. Very hard to believe, honestly speaking. But going forward, what I suggest is that companies must explicitly include digital behavior within POSH policies, especially when all these WhatsApp messages and the Wi-Fi passwords being derogatory and humiliating women employees specifically comes on the surface. Because the online misconduct is still workplace misconduct, and we must ensure zero tolerance, regardless of the seniority or the nature of complaints. And I think it's important that everybody understands that POSH is not just about responding to complaints. It's also about creating awareness among employees. How is it possible that if your HR is not taking an action, you're not reporting to the skip level? Clearly, there is a big miss. And
I mean, firstly, it's very hard to believe that a corporate giant's HR would not act on this. That itself is very hard to believe.
It's very hard to believe, and they're unacceptable, in any workplace. So therefore, I would like to reiterate that it is an employer's duty to maintain safe working environment, have an internal committee, active internal committee, act promptly on all complaints, and also conduct awareness and sensitization programs so that no such miss happens in the near future.
Absolutely. In fact, Kumar, Aniket, if I can just come to you at this point again, at the heart of this is, of course, the fact that there seems to have been a conversion racket, and that's what you have seemed to have implied in a way earlier when you were making the remark that you were making.
Yes.
Religion for a very long time was a very personal standing. For many, even now, it may be personal. For many, they wear it on their sleeve. How in workplaces would you differentiate between people sharing their religion vis-a-vis attempts at what many would call conversion?
Conversions are something which have become a problem in last 10-15 years. People think, particularly, there is a term among Muslims which is called munafiqs. Munafiqs are those who are supposed to be Muslims but who don't actually are Muslims. So they try to, they think that doing namaz 5 times a day is their religion, where actually religion makes exceptions for it. They think that trying to convert and converting one person is way more important than anything else. You think about the consequences, all this conversion racket, what will a corporate do going forward? They will try to minimize hiring of Muslims because they will afraid about such kind of conversion thing happening again and disrupting their work. For them, the disruption of their work is much more important than this religion thing. So, actually what will happen that there will be reaction to it. Initial approach to corporate is that right now, let people forget about it. After that, they try to, how such things should not happen again. How is that you minimize hiring, you do background checks, you check, things. So what is happening, there are consequences going to happen.
Okay, let me just get in Dr. Kiranpreet Kaur. What Kumar Aniket is saying, I don't want to put it under the carpet. However, some of us may not agree. Maybe this is also a slice of reality. However, unfair. It is unfair to target anybody on the basis of religion. It is unfair to see a professional who comes with merit, ethics, and a certain amount of experience or no experience, depending upon what position that person is applying for. To look at that person from the prism of religion is possibly the saddest thing that one can really do. But Dr. Kiranpreet Kaur, let me ask you this question. As somebody who's been part of the HR, how would you combat possibly people who would be speaking like what Mr. Kumar Aniket has red flagged at this point? How would you combat this as a HR professional?
Well, from an HR perspective, the core issue is not about any religion. So we would not want to highlight any religion
I think
in
that's
particular,
very important to put it out. Very
because
important.
it is about workplace dignity and freedom of belief. Every employee has
Absolutely.
the right to practice their faith without being under any pressure, questioning or ridiculing them. So if employees are being repeatedly questioned about their faith or made uncomfortable through remarks that, oh, because you're a Muslim, oh, there is a chance of you getting into the company and converting people, that contribute to a hostile work environment, just like gender-based harassment. So I think it is important that we do not communalize a workplace issue. If a wrongdoing is proven, I think it is an individual and organizational failure, not something that should be generalized to any particular community. And organizations must ensure that not just gender safety, but also inclusion and non-discrimination across religion, caste, and identity. That requires clear, strict accountability and training. Workplaces cannot become spaces where their identity becomes, whether through gender or religion, to intimidate. Professional environments must remain neutral, respectful, and safe
You
for
know,
everyone.
I think Dr. Kiran Preet, India is kind of moving away from that because inclusivity isn't really about neutrality alone. You know, you would want to give spaces for everyone to be represented, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you would be neutral, because people really wear their identity in today's India on their sleeve. Very few would hold back their identity in terms of religion, in terms of caste, in terms of gender. And these just being some that I'm really mentioning. There's so much more deeper identities that Indians carry with them wherever they go. And I think workplaces are now moving to really understand and adjust with that. Possibly last 30 seconds to both of you to end your remarks with that.
Well, I suggest that as professionals, we must give freedom of thoughts and beliefs to every individual. If there is any harassment that has happened, it must rely on evidences and not assumptions. And every organization must ensure safe workplaces rather than amplifying divisions, because while inclusion is important, diversity is important, but we must ensure that every employee feels respected in the organization.
Kumar Aniket, do you have your last comments on this?
What I will like to say, what Dr. Kiran says is the ideal scenario. Trouble is India has, moved way ahead, away from it. And as you have rightly pointed out, people like to wear their religion, their affiliations on their sleeve right now,
Political
identity.
affiliations as well.
Yes, and second thing is that if you are a corporate guy and you are afraid of that something like TCS like thing happening, what will be your reaction? You think about it. You can't find out which one is going to be honest employee, who is going to indulge in conversion, and who is going to do what. So a safer way is you hire a token percentage and then you keep them under strict watch. And but not because you are religious, because you don't want such things to happen and disrupt your business. As I said, businesses, only thing is cash is God, money is religion, nothing else. So
All right.
what matters is not disrupting my business, because I am TCS, my clients are sitting outside India. They are the least bothered about any disruption, what is happening in Nasik. They want their services to be delivered because they have paid for it.
Okay,
So
I
what
think
is the solution?
I would just possibly, we're totally out of time, Kumar Aniket. I can't really take away from what you are saying, because if that really does happen, and if that's how corporates would respond to a crisis like this, if at all it is also proved under the law. Remember, this is also being probed, and TCS has said that they never got a complaint like this. That's part of probe as well. But if at all corporates are to move in a way that you are suggesting, that possibly would be a downfall for India. Because India is a country that believes in being a secular, democratic, socialist, secular, democratic country. And equal representation, inclusion for every citizen is a fundamental right, is a right to life, and is also identity of India and not just Indians. Thank you very much, both of you, for joining me. Thank you very much, Dr. Kiran Preet Kaur. Thank you very much, Kumar Aniket. Thank you so much.